Podcass, your place to find out everything you've ever wanted to know about pain. My name's Dr. Joseph Parsons, and I'm joined by the wonderful Dr. Joshua Kroenke and Don Wijesoria, and today we're talking about depression and pain. Welcome in.
We'd like to give a trigger warning for this episode, as we are talking about subjects relating to depression, self-harm and suicide. I'd just like to point out, if you are going through any of these yourself, I recommend that you talk to a mental health professional or your doctor. And if you feel like you need immediate support, you can always contact the Samaritans, or you can search on Google for your local crisis team. Okay, so let's move on to the facts. So my fact for this week is that I actually thought that I was allergic to latex when I was younger.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so between the ages of, 16 to 23, I worked in kitchens. Mm-hmm. And quite commonly, particularly in the formative years, I would be wearing rubber gloves to do washing up with.
Yeah.
And I'd get these horrific rashes. And I put it down to...
Latex allergy.
Latex allergy.
Yeah.
So for years, I just assumed I had a latex allergy. Turns out it wasn't.
Can I see how much I know about dermatology? Was it contact dermatitis?
It did look like a contact dermatitis, yeah.
Do you want to explain that what that is? Because I kind of
What the
know
heck
it
is
but
that?
not enough.
Basically, it's an immune reaction, typically with the skin, where you come into a noxious substance which your body doesn't like, effectively, and it causes a red, itchy, almost blistering, dry sort of reaction. And it's quite common to soaps and things that you're allergic to. I think what it was for me was it was actually the soaps we were using, because I had my hand after I stopped using those gloves and what have you, and it was actually because when you're in the kitchen, you're washing your hands lots, like dozens of times in a day. So it was actually just me overwashing my hands and breaking down the natural oils of my skin, which made me have the reactions.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
And you never had it since?
never had it since.
He's never washed his hands since.
I still get that reaction now again, because as a doctor, I'm washing my hands a lot.
Yeah, of
Where
course.
it's actually just because I'm using soap all day on my hands and getting rid of the natural oils. And Don, what's your fact for this week?
Okay, I'll admit I've struggled to come up with a fact for this week. I've been ill prepared. So it's very basic, but my fact is my favorite color is, well, it's two. It's green and blue.
No, you can have one.
No, favorites.
Favourites colour?
Yeah, I just can't decide between like a deep forest green and just any blue.
Ooh. Any blue?
Yeah, particularly like a good ocean royal blue. Yeah.
What's your favourite colour, Josh?
I'd have to say like a purpley colour, maybe like amethyst. How about you?
Lilac. At the
Lilac.
minute. It changes. Ooh. It used to be blue because I was also a basic bitch.
Yeah.
But now it's lilac.
That's very avant-garde.
Do you ever wonder, pastel colours are very in at the minute, and so is sage green. Do you ever wonder if we'll look back at them in the same way we look back at like house decor from the 80s?
Yes, I look back
Mate,
at them
it's
now.
already there. Like, pastels are way out. Keep up.
Yeah, Don. Yeah, Joe. Sorry, I was just used to this.
Yeah, Don.
Oh my god. Joe, what about you? What's your fact?
My fact is that I am a big fan of escape rooms.
Ooh.
Oh, I think Josh, are you also a big fan of escape rooms? Because I know I'm a big fan of escape rooms as well.
I've only ever been to one or two.
Josh broke a table in an escape room.
It was already broken. It was held together with sellotape.
Josh, we were doing a Sherlock Holmes escape room, and Josh leant over a table and stick his hand on it, and it just snapped. And then he wasn't going to tell the people who ran the escape room. They were like, "Oh, it's already broken." But Josh was just going to leave. He just kind of jimmied the table back into the right orientation.
It looked like an antique table. I think
it was very cheap. I think it had been dolled up to look old.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. It's probably like 10 pence to fix it.
I think they probably get them for free from Facebook Marketplace or something.
Yeah, they've got a big storeroom just full of old tables.
Yeah. But either way. No, so I love an escape room. I think they're great. Yeah. Great for the brain. Keep you going.
Yes. Always a good sense of achievement, sorry.
Yes, especially when you escape.
Yeah. Have you ever been stuck in an escape room?
Yes.
Failure.
I failed once.
How are you here now? How did you get out?
I dug. It's like The Great Escape.
Okay, so moving on to what we've learned about ourselves. If anybody's been keenly watching or listening to even the podcast, you might know that we had a bit of a challenge where we came up with the theme tune for the breakdown. Yeah. If you are a Patreon subscriber, I'm sorry that you're having to listen to that. But my learning for this week is that I'm incredibly untalented when it comes to just over the course of 30 minutes trying to make a theme tune.
Okay.
I just don't have the ability to do it.
I think that's unfair on yourself. I think if we weren't in the presence of Joe as we were doing that, I think you would have thought that you were an excellent composer. But because Joe is just such a master when it comes to the musical arts, yeah.
I was like a 2-year-old with a keyboard. I'm going to be honest.
The problem was giving Josh access to GarageBand that he hasn't played with before.
This is true.
And giving him access to bassoon and
This is a very good point.
Synth keyboards.
Some foreign. It was labelled as world instruments.
Yeah, and there were only 2 world instruments, and both of them sounded really cool, but I don't know what they were.
I was just waiting to go DJ
Yeah, if we'd have had a school keyboard
from
you would have had,
the noughties.
from the noughties, you'd have had a lot more. Oh, write in if you're a young listener, if you've recently left school or are still in school. Let us know if they still have the DJ.
Do they still have
Dictionary.
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 It's when you'd obviously get the people in class and they'd be like, dick, 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 and then it had that one weird moan key where it's just all going, ah.
Yes.
So people were like, dick, 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 ah.
Why did it have those buttons?
I don't know. Who was ever like, what DJ was it who was like, they were like, oh, we've got this world leading DJ to come in and help us design this keyboard.
Yeah.
And he was like, guys, the sounds of the future, the kids of the noughties, what they need is dictionary and they need moaning. That's
Also,
all they need.
I think what it was is the people at Yamaha was like, how can we introduce people to these new modes? I mean, we've got a dictionary mode, we've got a DJ mode. I know. Yes.
And also, who was the person in charge of allowing this for the curriculum, for the national curriculum? Like, surely they have a spec of the keyboards you can buy.
Yeah, I mean, I know, but like, there was something about going into music every week and seeing a little part of my teacher die.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, Don, what have you learned about yourself?
What I've learned about myself is that I am seriously missing out on some high quality entertainment because I realised that I've not watched a lot of the typical classic films.
Ooh.
Classic
Okay.
Hollywood films such as The Notebook or Good Will Hunting. Yes.
One of my friends. thought it
Bridget
was
Jones'
called-
Diary.
These are, yeah.
Yeah.
One of my
Godfather, sorry.
No, sorry. One of my friends thought it was called Will Goes Hunting.
Poor little Will.
Good Will Hunting is a fantastic movie. It's on Netflix at the minute.
It is. So yes, that's kind of what sparked this. So I need to make time to watch more of those classics.
Yeah, I think it's Robin Williams' best movie in my opinion.
Oh, okay.
Have you watched Good Morning Vietnam?
Good morning, Vietnam. Yes, I have.
And you think it's better?
I do.
I'll have to watch it because I've also not watched Good
Was
Morning
he in?
What?
I know.
Was
Jesus.
he in? He was in Dead Poet Society, right?
Yeah, he was. He was.
I thought you were going to say
I like
Deadpool
that.
then.
No.
So, Joe, what's your learning point from this week?
I learned that I am terrible at DIY. So we've been waiting for IKEA to deliver handles 3 times for some new wardrobes we've bought, and they've failed every time to actually deliver them. They've been like, oh, they're coming, don't worry. And they've just delivered other random things, including more shelves than we'd ever need, which we didn't ask for. And I was...
You sound like you've gotten a lot of stuff for free then.
Yeah, but I can't resell shelves, can I?
That's
Who's
true.
looking for some plywood IKEA shelves? If you are, write in.
You can make a box out of them.
I only got 3
You
extra.
can make a tree house. Oh, right, okay.
I could make a really tree house.
You could put up a shelf.
Could. Either way, I was measuring where to drill holes for the handles, and basically after marking them up, Deanna, my fiance, was just like, do you want to just go and sort the washing? And then I came back up and it was done. So I've learned that, I don't know if I'm terrible at DIY because I didn't actually get the chance, but realistically, I think she was doing that for my own protection.
She's really stolen the essence of DIY from you.
Yeah, it's No, it's...
It's let me do it myself.
Yeah, it's like...
Diana.
IY. Or DDIY. Diana, do it yourself.
There's a big comma after that.
Yeah.
So, yes, as you will have heard earlier on in this episode, we will be talking about some slightly uncomfortable topics. They might be depressing, and it's not our usual light-hearted content, but we do believe that it's important to talk about. But I want to start things off on a light note.
Okay.
And so I have devised a bit of a Family Fortunes-esque game for you guys.
Do you have the mustache? What's his name? Steve?
Harvey.
It's Harvey. Have you got the mustache?
I can never do a good Steve Harvey.
Can I edit a mustache? A Steve Harvey mustache on you?
You can Photoshop a Steve Harvey mustache onto me. I've always dreamed of being Steve Harvey, to be honest. That tie collection alone.
How many people do you want to see it? Do you want it on the Patreon or the social media?
Give the people what they want.
Okay, social media. Oh, sorry, or actually, if people what they want, never posting it. Sorry. Cool, Family Fortunes.
Yes. All right, so can we get the top 15 answers on the board? We have asked our audience, we haven't, sorry audience, for the top 15 most unconventional causes of depression. Let's go.
I'm going to say... Shall I start off? Yeah,
Yes,
let's
please
do
do.
it.
Buzz in.
Beep. Okay, I'm going to say losing your ice cream. So, like, do you know what, when you get the ice cream as you're a kid,
Oh,
it's got a big scoop on it and bam, it hits the floor.
Oh, you would hate those videos of like people in, is it Turkey,
Turkey.
where they do the ice cream tricks?
Do you know what? I absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
I'd just walk away. I wouldn't entertain it whatsoever. The second they do anything like that, that's me gone.
You know how usually they're like on some kind of rickshaw or like some kind of mobile cart?
Yeah.
I feel like you just flip the cart.
I'd be furious.
Yeah. You would detach that thing and just let it roll down the hill.
They're
With the
usually
guy
on hills.
inside.
In Istanbul, when I went, they were
Yeah.
always on hills.
Were they always on hills?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that's a thing. Just everyone that I saw was on quite a steep hill.
Ah, okay.
Interesting.
Is that on the list?
That's not on the list, but
Oh.
it is not one of the top 15 from the audience.
For me, anyone who's ever been to Newcastle and been on the main street, Northumberland Street, will have seen a shop called Eat for Less, which is like a... well, it was cheap, but it's no longer cheap. But their original business model was selling baguettes for 99p with like basically any... They had like 50, 60 different fillings. It was amazing. And while I was at university in Newcastle, I was having a period of depression myself. And genuinely, I remember just being a little bit devastated one day when they raised their prices from 99p to £1.49.
How
per
fucking
baguette.
dare they?
Bastards.
I was just, when you just think, like, surely things can't get worse with the world.
Yeah.
And then Eat for Less
Yeah.
raised their prices by 50p.
Oh, it's so
Yeah.
good when you're a poor student. 99 pence or a lunch.
So was that on the list? Is that top 15?
That is number 14, yes.
Bullshit. Who wrote this list?
Go on, give me another one.
Lasagna stains.
Lasagna stains, please elaborate.
I mean, well...
Lasagna stains as in on the wall, on your clothes?
On you.
Okay.
Especially with light-coloured clothing.
Yes,
Get in.
that's
Come
up
on.
there.
That's a point for me.
Let's have another one.
Is it you to continue because you keep getting them right? Or is it,
Oh,
is it me? I'll go.
No, you go.
Okay, yeah.
So there's no family element to this Family Fortunes episode, it's just the two of you.
I'm going to go for when you accidentally step on a dog's paw.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, both
Yeah.
of you get depression after that.
yeah.
Is that on the list?
That's on a different list, and I feel like you should be on a list for that.
Oh, I'm not doing it on purpose, am I?
No, that is very upsetting. Let's have another one.
Trying to drink and missing your mouth.
Fool, you absolute idiot. Yes, that is up there. We all regret it, but we've all done it.
Are we getting points for this? Because I feel like this may be biased.
I think it is slightly biased.
I'm going to go for...
No, you're getting yours right. They're just really bad ones.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go for when you get a really nice butter and you realise it's actually out of date.
Oh. Why would you buy an out-of-date butter, though?
I don't know, Don. Why would you buy out-of-date butter? And why would you offer it to your guests?
Maybe you were just given it. Maybe you didn't buy it. And the guest should have looked before using it. And you know what? The guests said themselves that it tasted sour, and they continued to eat it. That's their fault.
I did not continue to eat this.
He didn't.
I said, this is off. Looked at the date and said, Don, this is 4 months out of date.
I've not used butter in a long time.
Well, you clearly haven't, because
Yeah.
it's at least 4 months. What I'd like to... what I would reckon is, for the depression one, would somebody taking your brand new non-stick frying pan and cleaning it with a metal scrubber.
This makes me so upset. This makes me more angry than depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like when someone used a metal whisk on my brand new non-stick frying pan.
Who was that? Yeah, during the cooking challenge.
Which, if you haven't watched, episode 2, Patreon.
But I was very careful, and there aren't any scratches.
No. There's so many carcinogens that have gone into my food since then.
And you know what?
I've
You
actually
look a
changed
lot
it.
brighter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm literally glowing. It's
You
the
are.
uranium. Yeah, wow.
Sorry, Joe and Deanna,
It's okay.
for giving you cancer, potentially.
One thing, again, harking back to actually during a period of depression, a very silly thing that made me really upset. I used to work for like a charity kitchen in Newcastle, and I used to make 36 handmade small pies every week in a muffin tin. And I had to do them in batches of 12 because I was too cheap to buy more than one muffin tin. And I would lose like 3 or 4 out of every 12 because it would stick to the bottom of the dish. No matter what I did, butter, baking paper, somehow it would still stick to the bottom of the dish. And there was just one day when I lost like a particularly high number, and I was just stood in the kitchen. And I was like, I think I might cry. So yeah, it's interesting. Like when you're in that kind of state of mind, small things can really throw you.
Yeah, that is such a waste of food.
Oh, there is one last one. Can I?
There's so many more. But go on.
Oh shit.
So my last one would be sort of like when you're in public and you see somebody waving, you think they're waving at you, so you wave back to them, and then you realise your heart sinks. They're waving to somebody behind you.
Or what's even weirder is when you don't know them and they are waving at you, and you're like, "Who the fuck is this person?" Were there any that we missed?
There were quite a few. So, one that I thought of was looking at the weather outside, deciding not to take a raincoat or umbrella, and the moment you step out, it starts raining.
I live in the north of England. This is every day.
This is every day. One that's personal to me is hoovering under the furniture and not being able to get rid of the furniture marks. You know, the little indentations on the carpet? Mm-hmm. Really gets to me.
You just have to get your mouth involved. Just get on the ground and just hoover it up. Yeah.
Josh just looks around. It's a hardwood floor, Don. What?
What furniture marks are you get?
In the bedrooms. Okay. Another thing that's really upsetting is having to leave. It's like saying goodbye to a pet and like leaving them at home whilst you go out for, I don't know, your errands or whatever.
Oh, I'm going to be honest. When you said saying goodbye to a pet, I thought you meant like a pet had died.
Yeah.
Well, that is also very depressing.
I know. It seems.
Yeah.
It is.
A couple more. Stepping in water with socks.
Oh,
Disgusting.
The worst sensation.
The final season of Game of Thrones. Being ghosted or left on red. What else? Eating the last bite of something delicious and trying to savor that, but you know you're never going to get it back.
Is it like the butter?
It's like the butter. It's like the pie, the cheesecake from Friends.
Oh.
Getting a haircut that you thought looked way better in your imagination.
You know, when I was a kid, I used to take a football sticker book to my hairdressers, and I would choose based on which footballer I liked at the time, and I would just point and be like, them.
I'd like Ronaldo. No, not the Portuguese one. I want fat Ronaldo.
I want bald. I want shiny bald.
With one patch just on the forehead.
I forgot about that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. No,
But yeah.
it was always really, really niche footballers as well. Because I had it was like the Panini sticker book, so I'd look at like a reserve player for Ipswich and be like, him.
I'd like Paliuka, please.
Great save, Paluca. Is that all of them?
The last one, which honestly just gets me angry, just enrages me more than making me depressed, is why has no one used AI to just fold laundry already? Why is that not? There should be a machine that folds laundry by
I
now.
was going to say, because AI doesn't have hands.
What, any kind of robotics? So yes, whilst all of the above are deeply upsetting, the causes of depression are typically categorized into biological, psychological, and social factors, which we'll dive into later in the podcast. But I think it's important to recognize the prevalence of depression when it comes to chronic pain.
Yes. So it depends where you read your stats, but anywhere between 40 and 60% of people who have chronic pain will also have depression. Now, there are 3 of us sat around this table, so that means that statistically, with us around the table, 1 to 2 of us will have depression at any one point. And we have all had depression at one point or another. I don't know how directly all of our individual experiences were related to our pain, but I'm sure they were playing a contributory factor. So if you imagine that we take the middle ground of that, if we say 50% of people with chronic pain have depression, that's tenfold higher than the worldwide average. So it's meant to be about 5% of the adult population present with depression.
So that's just in the UK?
No, worldwide.
No, but the 40 to 60%
is
just...
worldwide as well. It's different
right.
estimates worldwide. So if you think that people with chronic pain are tenfold more likely to have depression at any one time.
Oh wow, that's a marked increase, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, like, there are tons of studies out there looking at the overlap between the two and how depression predicts pain and pain predicts depression. But, like, already the fact it's tenfold higher gives you a big clue that there's some correlation between the two.
And, I mean, there is a massive overlap with depression and pain. I think there was a study of, like, over 6,000 adults over the age of 50 found that loneliness is associated with increased pain, fatigue, and depression.
Yeah, they're kind of factors that tend to go really hand in hand. And I mean, there's similar studies in China, in the Netherlands, in England, in the US, all of which show that pain and depression have this predictive relationship where one predicts the other. And like, particularly in England, like where we're based, there was a study that found that if you have pain but no depression at baseline, you're 2.36 times more likely to develop depression, and exactly the same statistic the other way around. So if you have depression at baseline but no pain, you're 2.36 times more likely than someone who didn't have depression at baseline to develop pain. Wow. So like, that's a really massive increase. If you imagine, like, that's going to include all the people who have an injury between those times, who sort of have trauma, people who have undergone like surgery and got post-surgical pain. So like, despite all of that, people who have had either depression or pain at baseline are 2.36 times more likely than people without to develop the other, so pain or depression.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
And I think it's worth us talking about not only this overlap, but how this kind of presents in some quite dark outcomes for people with pain. So there's a study of 8,000 children in the UK, and it found that children living with pain were twice as likely to have self-harm behaviours than children without pain. And if you think like those behaviours are occurring in like such young individuals, I dread to think what it would be in older individuals where they've maybe kind of been living with the pain for a longer period of time.
And understood their emotions a bit more, to where it kind of makes it even more difficult to come to that kind of decision.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that, guys. I think that potentially this increase in self-harm from experiencing pain, perhaps it's that children don't have the tools necessary to describe what's going on and express what's happening to them. Perhaps that could be. I mean, I don't have the literature in front of me to support such a thing, but
that'd be your theory.
That'd be my theory. I think what it goes to show is that in terms of dangerous behaviour, in terms of the negative outcomes from depression, that actually pain is just an independent risk factor for all of those and increases the risk of those behaviours.
Yeah, I think that kind of harks back to what we mentioned in the previous episode, where kids might not necessarily have the language to describe
Yeah.
their pain, and so they express it in physical ways.
Yeah, 100% agree. And if you'd like to listen to that at home, it was our great episode with Mr. Oliver Stewart, one of our fine teachers in the Northwest. Some really good information there.
Yes. But I think I do get where you're coming from with that kind of counter theory, Josh, but chronic pain is associated with a 1.5-fold higher risk of suicidal ideation and behaviours. So people either like thinking of committing suicide or attempting suicide. And so if you think like that's compared to other individuals with depression, so already you've got that increased risk, and then you add on top of that the pain, that makes even higher risk of people attempting to take their own life.
So what you're saying is it's, according to the data, that it's a compounding effect.
It does look like it,
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess it does make sense because pain is so challenging to live with in the first place. Like, there's so many things that it makes more difficult in your life, that then adding to that as well, these feelings of lack of motivation, of sort of not wanting to get out of bed, just wanting to be isolated from people, these feelings of sadness, of not caring what happens to you, like all of that on top of an already really challenging condition. You can understand why people kind of reach that headspace.
So I suppose if we treat depression, do we treat chronic pain? If we treat the chronic pain, do we treat depression?
Well, I guess it's probably worth thinking about the biology of pain and depression and how they're linked, and then we can maybe think about whether there's any treatments that can be used to try and tackle both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to.
So, like I mentioned before, there are kind of biological, psychological, and social factors of depression when it comes to pain. And so, Joe, would you like to discuss some of the biological mechanisms?
Yeah. You'll have heard of chemicals before, like serotonin and dopamine. We kind of think about them as being like happy chemicals, basically. And with people with chronic pain, there's a part of the brain called the limbic system, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Don, I think is associated with emotional processing.
That's right.
Yeah. And so you get reduced dopamine production and reduced expression of the receptors, so the thing that the dopamine binds to, in the limbic system in people with chronic pain. So it looks like maybe we're getting less of these like emotional regulation signals in our brain, and that's resulting in people presenting with these kind of depressive behaviours. And then serotonin as well, particularly in women, it seems that women who have chronic pain and have receptor mutations, so that it's not responding properly to the serotonin binding to it, they have significantly higher depression scores than those without the mutations. Now, I can't explain to you why the receptor mutations in men don't have the same effect, but there seems to be something about serotonin in women being a major driver of chronic pain and depression going hand in hand. But I guess, like, maybe, Josh, you can enlighten us a little bit about how antidepressant medications tend to target these kind of chemicals.
So technically, as doctors, we don't actually know the exact mechanisms of how antidepressants work. We know that, okay, we use SSRIs. That's a specific serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It's an antidepressant. You may have heard of sertraline, fluoxetine, citalopram. These are all SSRIs. It's a good medication which helps you to keep high levels of serotonin. Something I tell all of our patients, we start you on antidepressants. For the first 2 weeks, you're going to feel worse.
Yeah.
It's actually a very high risk medication in terms of your mood.
Yeah.
We say that, okay, but after those 2 weeks, we typically see you going upwards in mood so that you're going to feel a bit better. And then it plateaus off in terms of, okay, you're feeling better than you was before you start these medications. So there seems to be some biological link between serotonin and mood. Yes, it does make us feel better. There's a lower incidence of depression in people that are taking antidepressant medications in terms of versus people who are depressed and trying other medications. But it's very difficult. Not every medication works the same with every person. We see different effects with different people. I myself, when I was in my GP rotation during my F2 year as a doctor, I found that for the majority of people, starting on an SSRI, so one of those antidepressants, really did help with the mood within the space of a month. Then again, there are people where we need to use different types of medications within the same class. We need to use medications that act on different receptors. You mentioned before, talking about serotonin, we can target different types of receptors with different medications, which can have different effects with different people. And it's not just that, but there is a risk of having treatment-resistant depression. Now, that's a very nebulous term, and because if you look at all the literature, what is treatment-resistant depression? It's effectively depression that you've tried multiple pharmacological mechanisms and interventions to treat, but it's not working.
Yeah.
And therein lies the issue. If your depression is linked to chronic pain and we're not taking chronic pain into account, we're not solving that causative issue. So does that make treating it more difficult?
Yeah. I mean, interestingly, one of the best treatment methods, according to the literature, for treatment-resistant depression is to give intravenous ketamine. And so some of you out there may have heard of ketamine being like a party drug. Some of you may know it to be a horse tranquilizer, which makes me baffled why anyone would take it as a party drug. But actually, intravenous ketamine seems to rapidly improve depression and suicidal ideation in people who have treatment-resistant depression. But what's very interesting as well is ketamine has been used as like a heavy-duty painkiller. So maybe there is that kind of link in people who have, like, this is just us kind of spitballing here, but maybe there is that link of people who have really severe pain alongside treatment-resistant depression. Maybe things like ketamine are killing two birds with one stone, effectively, and that might be why they're having these improvements in symptoms.
Yeah, so we actually use ketamine sometimes during anesthesia, particularly for traumas, or for children, in fact. It's very highly regulated. It's definitely not the first line for these cases, but it is a medication that can have different uses other than the recreational use that most people use nowadays.
One of the other treatments for treatment-resistant depression is to do like brain stimulation, and so that can either be transcranial magnetic stimulation, which is like using electromagnetic radiation through your brain to kind of alter your brain's activity. If someone does know how it works, like really in detail, please write in paininthepodcass@gmail.com, because it's beyond my level of comprehension. But also like electroconvulsive therapies, so effectively like direct electrical stimulation to the brain. But the reason why it's particularly interesting is that in people who have depression, who then go on to develop pain, there's specific areas of the brain that get activated in these people who go on to develop pain. So they get activation of places called the parahippocampal gyrus and the amygdala. But for listeners at home, these are two centers of your brain that work with emotional processing and memory. And so if you've got depression and you kind of have dysfunction in these areas, you can understand how that might link to pain, like how it might cause that overall like worsening of mood and ability to deal with things. And so maybe you can see how that would trigger pain. And vice versa, in people with pain who go on to develop depression, they get activation of a part of the brain called the thalamus and the superior frontal gyrus, which are associated with cognition, so our ability to process things, and with memory as well. So if you imagine you've got pain and then all of a sudden you have this dysregulation, so you're struggling to think, you're struggling to kind of do cognition tasks, so like basic tasks, if you're struggling to problem solve, you can understand how this would then lead to you developing depression.
Yeah, I mean, and ECT, it's not necessarily the barbaric treatment that you think of when you think of, for example, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
Or those types of things back in the dark ages of modern
the 60s
medicine.
and 70s, yeah.
We actually see that ECT can be effective in up to 60% of patients.
Wow.
So if you've got somebody who has been resistant to multiple drugs or who has such severe side effects to the medications that it makes it untenable to continue, then actually ECT can be a proper treatment.
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you know how it works?
no.
Thanks, Josh. Let's have a look at the Oxford NHS Foundation Trust Interventional Psychiatry Service.
Supposedly, it causes release of brain chemicals which stimulate growth in some areas of the brain that tend to shrink with depression.
I mean, yes, but what I'm saying is, though, that the overwhelming majority of doctors could not tell you how it works.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very specialised area of medicine. I don't have specialist training in.
Yeah.
And I'd be lying if I said I was an expert in this whatsoever. What I can tell you is that it has been shown to be effective, but it is a last resort treatment.
Yeah. So that's kind of thinking about the biology of pain. And if you subscribe to the Patreon, you'll see in the breakdown we do a little bit of a discussion about the gut microbiome as well, which there's some studies in animals beginning to link your gut bacteria with development of depression, and actually shows ketamine as a potential reverser of these gut problems. But we'll talk about that more over there. But you said, Don, there was also psychological and social mechanisms which link depression and pain.
All right, so some of the psychological mechanisms linking depression and pain include learned helplessness, where the individual kind of loses hope about potentially improving their condition, and so they become more passive and they just lose motivation to have the right kind of tools to help themselves.
Yeah, I think that the studies in that were in dogs, wasn't they? Where they initially had dogs in electrified cages. These are brutal experiments. And they would continually shock the dogs. Mm. And it was an enclosed space where the dog couldn't get out. So they wasn't able to help themselves. And then when you put the same dogs in a cage with a small electrical stimulus and the top was off so they could easily escape, they wouldn't. They'd learn that behaviour of that they couldn't make a difference.
They had to sit in the middle of the cage
exactly.
and be...
Not that they had to sit, but like Josh said, that it just didn't make a difference. They believed it wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah. I think that's understandable, though, with pain, is like when you have no clear end in sight and you don't really know what to do to help yourself, like it's understandable that people get into that way. Like obviously it's better that they don't, but you can see why they would, and you can see how that would then seep into other aspects of your life. If you feel like you've got no control over managing your pain, you might think you've got no control over managing your relationships, about managing your emotions. Like, you can see how one thing leads to the other.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So, a couple others are lack of sleep, lack of good quality of sleep. This is a really key one, especially with people with pain, because it's just really disruptive. Yeah. There are countless nights that I'm sure all the three of us have had where we just don't get enough sleep, waking up in the middle of the night, shuffling, tossing and turning. Yeah. It's just impossible to get a good quality of sleep sometimes. And that's just devastating sometimes.
It affects every aspect of your life. I think there are studies that have shown that getting fewer than 6 hours of sleep a night is the equivalent of being hungover, effectively. Yeah. In terms of motor skills.
And obviously, like, for individuals like you, Josh, where, like, you're working in medicine, you have to be on top performance at all time. And so it's like, if you're not sleeping well and you still need to perform on top, like, okay, you might be able to force yourself to do it while you're at work, but then do you have the capacity to maintain that in your home life? And that you're having to sacrifice a part of your life in order to make sure your professional life can stay high quality.
Yeah, and it's not just doctors, it's not just people with high power positions, this is everybody.
Lorry drivers.
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't even think about lorry drivers, absolutely.
Responsibility wise, you're carrying a huge weapon effectively. If you're driving an 18-ton truck, like you need to be switched on, and if you're living with pain, which sedentary lifestyle, like socially isolated, like for a lot of the time, like you can understand how things like that would be.
Yeah. And I guess the last one that I wanted to touch base on was the negative thought patterns that we often have.
Yeah.
I know personally I can just spiral. One small little niggle and I'm thinking the absolute worst. That kind of catastrophization is really bad for us. It doesn't really help.
Yeah.
And so it's just finding ways of managing this, that's really important. And then moving on to the social mechanisms linking depression and pain. These include just feeling isolated and lonely, not really having anyone to talk about, not having anyone that can relate to your pain.
I mean, interestingly, there's studies estimate that between 11 and 18% of depression cases can be directly attributed to loneliness. So if you think that already that's a major trigger for depression, and then you add chronic pain into the mix as well, like, it's a really tough battle to fight. And I mean, you'll have seen in our social prescribing episode, if you're a regular listener, like, we speak about kind of the power of social interaction. And there are tons and tons and tons of things out there to support people with pain in social interaction, both in person and online. So if ever you feel like you're struggling socially, don't be afraid to get in contact with us or with your local social prescribers to get some support in finding social activities that are suitable for your current level of function and your current mindset.
Yeah, it can be something as simple as like what we mentioned in a previous episode about singing in a choir. Just having people around you that understand your experience means that you don't have to constantly explain it to new people when they ask you.
Because it's tiring.
That's tiring. And that can lead to just you feeling flustered or frustrated. And if you are trying to participate in something social with someone else who doesn't really understand your experience, it's just going to compromise the whole experience. So,
especially when, like, with pain, cancelling is a realistic part of a person with chronic pain's life. I think we're all lucky here that our pain affects us minimally enough that we still manage to maintain the vast majority of our social engagements and manage to go to work still. But, like, we've all had to cancel social engagements due to pain in the past. And there have been times where it's been really common that we've had to cancel social engagements. And so if you're with people who don't get what you're going through and you cancel last minute, there's only so many times you can cancel last minute before someone goes, well, Joe's really flaky, I'm not going to hang out with him anymore.
Yeah. And then you end up attending because you feel guilty, and that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I mean, last time I had a good long stretch of annual leave, so a holiday from work, I was very lucky to be suffering from back pain as well.
Yeah.
Yay. So couldn't do anything I'd planned to do, had to cancel things. I think I think we might have been even supposed to be doing some filming that during that time, and I just wasn't able to do it.
Yeah. You did also get dysentery though, so.
Then I got dysentery
That
afterwards.
was unfortunate.
It was not fun.
But I mean, like, from my own personal experience, when Josh and I were doing our undergrad, I got a bit of a reputation for leaving nights out early. And, you know, like, 18, 19 and stuff, and people were expecting you to be going till the wee early hours of the morning. And I'd always just end up going home by 1 o'clock. Because, honestly, the pain is so exhausting and my sleep was so poor quality that I would just have to go home. I physically just couldn't. The fatigue was way, way, way too much. And, like, the 1 o'clock got earlier and earlier as I went through my time there. And now, like, I don't even make an effort. The people I've surrounded myself with, luckily, are understanding enough that they don't really care if I go home at 11 p.m. Even then, that can be a push. But it is really hard to maintain a good social environment around you with pain, because it's really hard to get people to understand. And so surrounding yourself with other people with pain can be a really valuable way to get around that.
And so thinking of social mechanisms, we can't ignore the financial struggles that are associated with depression. There's evidence to indicate that financial stress is significantly correlated with depression. And older adults who worked more than 35 hours per week were significantly more likely to experience depressive symptoms than those who worked less than 35 hours per week. And the same was true for adults who had lower levels of social participation as well.
So it's basically saying, like, not only can finances obviously be a contributor towards depression for people with pain, but it's that poor work-life balance as well.
Yeah, of course. If you don't have a good work-life balance, you're not able to find the time to kind of manage your treatment. You might not be able to afford the treatment if things are difficult financially for you. So yeah, this is very important to discuss.
I think a quote that, like, always comes to my mind when I think about finances and pain is people are like, "Oh, money can't buy you happiness," but it's like, the way I always say it is, money can buy you comfort, and comfort makes happiness easier. It's like, if you have a stable home life, if you have always nutritious food on the table that you can afford to buy.
If you're not worrying about paying rent, if you're not worried about your kids going hungry, if you're not worried about the electric going off, the gas going off, the school asking for trip money, the internet going out.
Yeah. It's a very naive thing to say, I think, when people think that finances aren't related to this kind of stuff.
Yep.
I mean, there is a dose-related response to happiness and money that does plateau, I think, is after something like £80,000.
Yeah.
And for those of you like me who do not know what dose responses are, it's when there is a proportional relationship. So as one thing goes up, another thing also goes up. Right? So more money equals more happiness up to a certain point.
Yeah. As a rule of thumb, of course. I think it's probably worth us having a think then about what different interventions can be used for pain and depression. Like, we've already spoken a little bit about the medication. Actually, speaking of which, can I tell you a very quick story?
Yeah, please do.
I was on an antidepressant at one point for my pain because it's one of the few drugs that is indicated. So one of the few drugs that's like encouraged for use still in chronic pain. So I was on a drug called amitriptyline, and I had the most boring trip ever on amitriptyline. So I mean trip as in like hallucinating. It's the one time in my life I've ever hallucinated, and it was the most dull hallucination. So I sat, and this was when I used to live on my own. So I sat in bed looking at it was a rented flat, so they had horrible brown curtains. And I was sat up in bed looking at awful brown curtains. And I just started seeing thousands of landscape paintings, one after the other, like flashing, like...
Oh my god, like Bob Ross's entire portfolio.
But old, not particularly good landscape paintings. But I could see even though they were going so fast, my brain was processing every one of them. But I was very cognizant to the fact that I was still awake, and like that this was real, but I was hallucinating. And I was just like,
That doesn't sound boring, that sounds like a magical trip.
It was not exciting.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see any cool animals in the room with me, or talk to, I don't know,
A Sasquatch.
Exactly.
That's a story for another episode.
It was the hunt for Bigfoot. But yeah, sorry, that was me derailing a bit. But should we have a think about what interventions can be used for both pain and depression?
So there was a study within the last few years which showed that peer coaches with diabetes and pain who received 2 years of training in motivational interviewing, goal setting, problem solving and signposting, it showed that they performed telephone-based CBT and significantly reduced depression compared to controls.
All right, couple of questions. What is motivational interviewing? And the second question is not really a question, but I just thought it's important to give a brief overview of what CBT is. So, yeah, take your pick.
Motivational interviewing is this idea of trying to help people to come to identify how they can sort of take control in their own situation. So it's not trying to give people ideas. It's like, how did that make you feel? What do you feel the next steps would be beneficial here? It's trying to empower people with conversation rather than having like a paternalistic relationship.
Okay. And
but CBT, you're the man for this, my friend. You're the one who has the psychology training, whereas Josh and I are the humble peasants. So you tell me.
so CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is a form of therapy which aims to kind of identifying challenges and negative thought patterns and then modifying them in a way that's more positive. So kind of a very basic understanding would be changing, the thought of, I'm a failure to, no, I am capable, that kind of thing. So CBT has had, it's quite controversial, I think. There are very mixed reviews of CBT. It's one of the most common forms of treatment. And this is especially controversial in pain therapy because there is a kind of a lack of control sometimes when it comes to pain. And So you have to understand that there are certain changes to your behavior that are required for treatment, for CBT treatment, but it's not always easy to do this.
Because I think there's the acceptance, isn't there, that you have to accept that there's not necessarily going to be a cure, and so these behavioural changes that you're talking about it's that you've got to say, well, we can't change the pain necessarily, so what can we change to improve your quality of life, for
Exactly,
example?
yeah.
And that's quite similar kind of principle overall, isn't it, to acceptance and commitment therapy?
Yes, so where they differ is acceptance and commitment therapy kind of encourages you to embrace those difficulties and those challenges. And instead of changing your thoughts, it's more about finding the solutions and moving on and focusing on that, as opposed to kind of rethinking everything.
Okay. I have personal experience of acceptance and commitment therapy. I took part in a pain management program for my own pain. And I want to maybe mention this now so that other people going through the same situation don't have the same negative response I did. Now that I'm trained to be a clinician, I fully understand what people are talking about when they say about acceptance. They are basically saying that you need to accept your current situation and that you're looking to improve it, but kind of coming to terms with where you're at now and not necessarily like wishing for the life that you used to have, that you're not necessarily spending your time grieving your previous life. You're trying to take the situation at face value and see where you can go from there. But I always find it really difficult when I'm sat in the room, either in a group session or on my own, with a psychologist who's telling me that I just need to accept what's going on. And I just think, like, you're not in pain. Like, who are you to tell me to accept it? You've got no idea what I'm going through. And so I think if you're in that position like I was in, try and understand that it's the wording is the problem. They're not saying to you, yeah, you should just put up with what you're going through. Like, that's not the point of the acceptance. It's the temporary acceptance of where you're at in order to try and kind of remove the resistance that you feel like. If you're constantly fighting it and you'll be like, I want to get cure, I want to get this, I want to get that, then it's really hard for you to make changes to your life that will improve your quality of life.
Yes, I think it's also important to realize that for people who are undergoing acceptance and commitment therapy, they have to realize that it's about they have to realize that they've done that kind of thing before, where we've all been, if we go back to school, back to our time in school, we've all had ridiculous questions about why the world works and the way it does and why maths is the way it is, all these things. And this is a massive, massive oversimplification of ACT. But I think just remembering the fact that you have done it in the past can help you when it comes to your current situation.
What, that you've accepted the way the world works in order to help you progress?
Yeah, so just thinking about simple, just minor little scenarios such as understanding the complexity of algebra and not really questioning it, but accepting the fact that x equals y or y equals who knows what.
Yeah.
I think that can really help some people because sometimes they get a bit too hung up on the fighting element of it.
My math teacher never liked it when I fought with him.
Exactly. And where's that gotten you now?
My math teacher hit me.
Okay, this is a,
Sorry, this
is a very
I was
heavy
way too
episode.
drunk saying that. My math teacher, I had never got an A star in a mock ever at my GCSEs, and in my actual exam I got an A star, and so he just like dead armed me, like probably like punched me in the arm and went, "Told you you could do it," and that was the last interaction I had with him. Just this long-lasting dead arm that was there for like 3 days.
And that was the start of Joe's chronic pain
Exactly.
journey.
Thankfully, no. It had already begun by then. Obviously, like speaking about CBT, about ACT, about like these psychological interventions, we've already spoken about the medical interventions. But I'd be interested to know if either of you have any personal experiences, like from your times experiencing depression. Has there been anything that's helped you in terms of managing the depression and the pain concomitantly?
Yeah, actually, I found that music was a good help.
Really?
Yeah, so, I mean, if people want to go back to, I think it's episode 15, when we talked about music and chronic pain, music and mood as well. It's just such a massive uplift to be able to listen to some music that you enjoy. I'm not saying, okay, here's a playlist, this is going to stop your depression.
No.
That's not going to happen. But music that you enjoy and makes you feel better in yourself,
Yeah.
makes you feel a bit more motivated maybe. Like, it's not a cure-all, but I mean, 1% gains, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, it was finding ways of being distracted healthily.
Okay.
And so that meant, well, a lot of it was socializing with friends.
Sure.
Just for me in particular, I really enjoy the company of other people, and so that was my go-to. But finding other activities that I could do, just even on my own, such as walking, just going to the cinema on my own.
Yeah.
Actually, no, the cinema can be quite painful sometimes, especially when you've got a flare-up and you're kind of trapped in there.
And you're seeing all the happy couples.
Yeah. But it was nice sometimes. But yeah, any kind of social interaction was kind of what saved me to, just anything to get me distracted.
Yeah.
And I just had to accept the fact that distraction was the thing that I needed.
Yeah.
For some people, it might not seem healthy. They might not believe it's a healthy thing. But for me, I really believe that it was a good, powerful tool to help me.
Sure. And for me, like, I was like 20 years old when I started to have like onset of depression symptoms, and I struggled with it for quite a long time before really doing anything about it. And you might have seen me if you've watched any of our Patreon content. I think I've been wearing this hoodie. I have a hoodie that says "Basketball saved me," and I'm not prescribing basketball for people, but the thing about it is that I'd never really played basketball before, but it was an activity that I could do that I felt motivated to do, and I could see progress every time I did it. It's because I was brand new at it. I started out really shit. And so having something that I had control over, and that despite the fact I felt so demotivated, I found an activity that I was motivated to do, and every time I did it, I saw progress, and it gave me this feeling of like control over my life. So everything else felt like it was spiraling, but having that one thing that I could always turn to a feeling of control. And like some people speak about self-harm in the same way, like it's an element of control over the situation. Obviously, like, we don't want you to be in that situation. So if you're struggling with depression, or you know someone who is, if there's any activity that they feel just gives them that little bit of satisfaction, and that they feel that despite the lack of motivation that they feel they can engage in, like, encourage them as much as possible to do that activity. Because honestly, like, basketball saved my life. It really did. It was seeing those little incremental bits of progress, even when I thought like that life was pointless, I was worthless, what was I going to contribute to anything? Like, seeing that I could do something better, things could improve. And I think slowly but surely that mindset seeped into the rest of my life, and I realised that things could improve, and slowly but surely they did.
So I know that for a lot of people, when they do try to pick up a new hobby or something like that, especially when it comes to coping with depression and pain, it can be really difficult to keep at it or sustain that because of just how challenging it can be.
Sure.
So whether that's the pain flaring up when you're taking part in that activity, or just the difficulty of the activity itself, sometimes it's not always sustainable. So I want to ask you, Joe, how did you manage to recognize those small incremental changes and that progress? And
maybe I am prescribing basketball. I love it because I could see the ball going in more.
Yep.
It's like, it was just an indisputable
It's
thing
measurable.
for me. It
Yeah.
was measurable. And I think that's, if you're doing something like, I don't know, painting,
Yeah.
like, as much as, if that works for you, please crack on. But with painting, it's hard to get like an objective, I'm now better at painting than I was.
Yeah, same
And
with slam poetry.
we're so sorry, Don. Go back and listen to the 20-hour challenge stuff. But it's really hard to become kind of measurably better at certain things, and so I found like having a measurable improvement was really handy for me, because it was like, even if I felt like shit about myself, objectively I was getting better at basketball. And so if you have something you're working towards, even if it's like, if you decide that you want to do painting, if you're trying to copy a painting, let's say, and you try and copy that painting every time, you just do the same painting for like 6 weeks, and then you pick another one. If you can see that your end product is better than your first one, like, and you're like, okay, the first one was shit, and the last one I'm actually pretty proud of, like, there's real value in that. But what I would say is be very careful in the time frame that you compare. And I say this to anyone with pain, like when I've been on physio placements and stuff, I say don't compare to yesterday. And don't compare to when you used to be fit and healthy, because both of them are terrible comparisons.
They're unrealistic, yeah.
Exactly. It's like yesterday, you might have had a shit day. And so if you put that in your head, you might think, oh, I'm actually getting worse.
Yeah.
When generally you've been improving.
Yeah.
And so people have to work out what that time frame is for themselves. But I tend to say like a week's time is good, because there might be day-to-day fluctuations. But if you're a little bit better today than you were a week ago, then that's a win.
Yeah, so just staying realistic about your expectations for the next day as well. So
Yeah.
if you are having a much better day the following day compared to your previous day, kind of understanding that those things will happen, but it's not guaranteed for the day after that as well.
Yeah. And the same vice versa.
And the same vice versa. Yeah, and that kind of takes me into the rate of progress with picking up a new activity or a new hobby, because as we are all probably familiar with, it's easier to recognize progress at the start.
Yes.
And then once things start to get a bit more challenging, you're developing more skills, more awareness. It's just naturally more difficult to understand the little nuances of that activity or hobby. And so I want people to understand that it's good to stay mindful of this and appreciate the progress that you've made, no matter what things are looking like at your current stage. Yeah. Always reflecting back to how it started.
Exactly. And it's good with a new activity, because it means that you're not looking back and you're not grieving a past life.
Exactly.
It's like if you used to be a grade 8 violinist and you used to be in an orchestra and you were amazing, and then you develop rheumatoid arthritis and you struggle to play violin anymore, even if you still play a little bit because it brings you joy, if your goal is to be better at something, then obviously like your body is now limiting what you can do, and that's okay, that's just the situation that you're in. But with something brand new, it's easier to see, like Don says, you see that progress more readily.
And that's something that I'm currently struggling with when it comes to badminton. I've been playing for such a long time, and I go through like long periods of playing really, really well, and then even longer periods of playing just like absolute garbage. And it's gotten to the point now where I just need to start taking care of my body a bit more. I'm constantly injured, and so I'm starting to think, is it really bad? Like, it feels almost like a betrayal if I was to find a new hobby or a new activity. So that's kind of running through my mind at the moment.
I mean, you could always practice some slam poetry.
No, absolutely not.
I think it's probably worth us finishing off with something a little bit more pragmatic about, obviously, the human importance of treating depression and pain is enormous, and I hope that you can see from the way that we've delivered this podcast that we hopefully have been sensitive to it, and that you could see how much we really hope that people with depression and pain can get the support they need, and hopefully some of the things we suggested might help you. But from a pragmatic health system point of view, depression is expensive when you have pain. Like, the combination of the two adds to the cost. So I don't know if either of you have got the stats about that.
I do, yes, indeed. So we can see that chronic pain patients at a pain clinic in London cost nearly £1,200 per year more to healthcare systems when they have depression than without. That just shows that people with depression and pain are using services more, are costing the NHS more money.
Yeah.
So for those service users, they need more economical input. And if you combine that with low socioeconomic areas where we're looking at the postcode lottery, funding is tight, how does that get stretched out? Where are we going to take money from to help with that?
Yeah. And if you assume that, we said before, there's 5.5 million people in the UK with high impact pain. And so if we're saying that approximately 50% of them have depression, if you then add on 2.75 million people at £1,200 extra per year, quick back of a napkin calculation, that works out as £3.3 billion a year. in increased costs because of depression and pain.
Wow, that's almost 10 billion Freddos.
I think, like, when you consider, like, the NHS's annual budget, I think it's somewhere in the region of 120 billion. I might be wrong. That might just be a number I picked out my arse, but I'm pretty sure. Josh is furiously Googling.
192 billion.
So if you consider then that, like, what, 1.5% of the NHS's budget is just going on people with depression and pain, and that if we could remove that depression aspect and then just leave people with the pain, like, that's a huge savings to the NHS. Imagine when we're thinking about, like, junior doctors' salaries not being enough, physios, nurses, OTs, healthcare assistants, like, these people who aren't getting paid enough, or there's not enough staff, or the ceilings caving in at certain hospitals, like the roof getting ripped off that hospital the other year. Like, this is not an insubstantial amount of money. Hopefully in this episode you'll understand a little bit more about what can be done to support people, or even yourself listening, with depression and depressive symptoms. And as we said at the beginning, like, reach out to your GP. If you feel like you need immediate support, you can reach out to Samaritans, to your local crisis team. Like, please don't suffer in silence. That's the important part. And to finish off today's episode, we will have a look at our book review. So it feels a little bit kind of weird to go to something like this now. It feels odd to move away from such a heavy topic, but now you get to hear me slating a book that I hate. Marnie Jackson wrote a book called Pain, Science and Culture of Why We Hurt, and it is my least favourite book I've ever read about pain.
Wow, this is a
Did it make
scathing
you-
indictment.
It was.
Did it make you slightly more depressed, Joe?
Oh Lord, it did make me more depressed. The reason why I gave it such a negative review is because it does include a lot of science about pain, but a lot of it's wrong.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So that was quite annoying. And it also makes quite a few nasty comments about pain sufferers, and kind of puts the pain at, like, the people in pain, it puts the blame on them for being in pain. You'd think if you were going out of your way to write a book about pain, you would be tactful. But
Considerate.
and I hope this isn't libel, but it did not do that. And at the time I read it, I gave it 4 out of 10, but I would like to revise that down to a 2.
Oh,
So, apologies, Marnie, if you're listening, but,
Well, not apologies. Do better.
well, yeah, I was trying to be polite, but Josh is right. Do better. So if you're looking for a pain book to read, not this one.
sorry about that. Hopefully next time Joe can bring you a book that's slightly more enticing.
Well, I think the negative ones are also important. We're going to save people money, aren't we?
That's true.
I'm not saying that as a joke.
So when we talk
genuinely.
about finances, we've saved
Yeah.
you however much that book costs online.
Probably like 14 quid, right? Something like that.
It's probably not that expensive. It wasn't a very good book.
Fair.
Go to your local library. Support your local libraries.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, please.
They're really good.
They are. The one near me is just adorable.
Does yours also have BorrowBox?
Yes,
Ooh, what's
yeah.
BorrowBox?
It's an app that you can get from libraries in the UK that gives you access to audiobooks and ebooks completely free. Tons of them.
Wow, we're promoting this every episode.
I know.
Yeah. I did know about the BorrowBox, but I thought it was something different. I do know what you're talking about, but I didn't know it was called BorrowBox. I thought what you meant by BorrowBox was literally a box filled with books that you could borrow,
That's
which is
called a
essentially a library, but a box inside the library.
Oh, are you talking about like when you get like the free public libraries, the one they have like little
Yeah,
bookcases outside
yeah,
and stuff?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
But
They're
no,
also cool.
But the audiobook is a really cool service as well.
Yeah. So please, actually, as well, if you know anyone who maybe has like, let's say, visual impairments, or who struggles with concentration and stuff, they struggle to read, like, empower them. Use these resources. There are books about pain on there. I've already checked. The book I'm reading currently, Empire of Pain, is on there. So go check it out. And on that note, we will see you next week for the breakdown if you subscribe to us on Patreon. And we will see you in a fortnight for the next episode here on whatever streaming platform you choose.
Yep. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.